If you want to support the show, the best way you can is through any of the books or current ongoing Vela shorts that are being released on a regular basis. The easiest way to find this is to go to bit.ly/tmrbooks, and you'll have links there to everything. All of my Kindle books are available for free. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you don't have to pay anything. You get it with your subscription. You can read them all. They're all in screenplay format. That includes Swan Song, The Muses, Duet, In the End, Our Past Does Not Define Us. Anything else that I've written that's available on Kindle, it's available there. You can buy a soft cover if you want. There's a hardcover collection of all of the Swan Song books, all combined into one. That's available as a hardcover. You can pre-order Echo Alpha, which is coming out in November. All of these things are available if you go on Amazon. But quick link, if you go bit.ly/tmrbooks, I have them all there, nice, easily cataloged. Also, down toward the bottom, we have the Kindle Vela content. The first 3 episodes are always free, and then after that, there's a token system that you can use to read. Even if you don't like it, just give it a thumbs up. That way we can get it up higher so more people see it. So one final time, that's bit.ly/tmrbooks, and every Wednesday there's a new Vela book that goes up. Taser and Acrobat, Nanite and Rosebud, Tales from Another World, and The Alchemist and the Illusionist. All go up on Wednesdays, and it's all available on Kindle Vela. All of this is available bit.ly/tmrbooks. Sorry to overload the front, but before we start, one final thing. If you can please go on Apple Podcasts, if that's how you listen, and give us a 5-star rating, that would mean a lot. We're trying to get on to Rotten Tomatoes and sites like that, and we need to get more reviews to be accepted. So if you can go on and give us a 5-star review there, that would be amazing. Thank you very much. We appreciate everything you guys do when you listen. This week on 30-Minute Reviews, a big thank you to everyone out there for pushing Swan Song into the top 50. On top of that, a ton of Spider news, going deep across the Spider-Verse on this one, all this week on 30-Minute Reviews. Welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I am Adam, and holy crap, do we have a lot of news today to get through this. But first, let's talk about Spider-Man. Before we dive into Spider-Man, which is really what most of the news is in regards to, it's all like Spider-Man or like Spider-adjacent or like, things like that. But first, I'm going to give a very big thank you to everyone out there who pushed my screenplay Swan Song into the top 50 superhero books of this week. It did not help that AWS was down, which made this a little bit more difficult to actually keep track of. But if you go to bit.ly/AT Swan Song, you can still pick up a free copy. It is free through Friday, so this is going to be going up late Wednesday. But through Friday, you can get a completely free copy that you can read on the Kindle app or anything like that. If you miss after that point, it won't be free anymore. It's $2.99 for a Kindle edition, but it is what's it called? It is what's the word I'm looking for? It is included in Kindle Unlimited. So even if you don't want to pay for it, you can still read it through Kindle Unlimited. And if you can give a 5-star rating, that would be very helpful. Because we want this to be seen by as many people as possible. Because the more people see it, the more cool things we can do. And we have a few cool things coming up in the near future. But we're going to be able to do cooler things after that. So thank you to those of you who have gone out and bought it already. Again, the link, if you want to go ahead and get it, is bit.ly/ATSWANSONG. That's all one word. So thank you to everyone who did that. One other bit of news, we have a new website. The old website will be coming down once this new website is completely up and operational. It is live, so you can go to it and browse. It is multiple multipleWorldProduction.wordpress.com. So multiple world production .wordpress.com. Sorry, multiple world productions.wordpress.com. And the reason for that is this new website is cleaner and easier to read, and it's going to have everything the old site did plus new stuff. And as we have new projects coming out, it's going to be there. So multiple world productions.wordpress.com. There will be a shorter link in the near future once I upgrade to a paid account. And then once that happens, you will be able to just use a quick link without the WordPress. And once I get off, dealing with, dealing with WordPress, who's, having that, who's having a little bit, I don't know. It's like I tried to link it, and it's like, this is already linked to a WordPress account. And I'm like, that's weird. I just bought this domain recently. So I don't know how the hell that happened, but whatever. It is what it is, and we will figure it out. And once I get off of the the issue with WordPress not linking it properly, we will eventually have that fixed. So let's dive into the fuck ton of news that dropped this week. The majority of which is Spider-Man or Spider-Man adjacent, and that's what we're going to talk about today. No movie review, because I've been busy all week. So let's start out with the non-Spider-Man news before we dive too far into this. Number one, DC is making an animated Metal Men movie. Now, you may remember we've covered Metal Men before, which is a fairly obscure DC title because there was a rumor that DC was going to do it for DC Universe. Back when DC was really doubling and tripling down on DC Universe, which happened for like a week and a half, and then they're like, fuck it, put it on HBO Max. That was one of the things that was rumored alongside a Metropolis show like Gotham, which is like, I don't think it quite works as well. You might as well make a Lex Luthor show. And there was also like a Martian Manhunter show that was allegedly in development. But Metal Men was one of the ones that was, presumed to be in the works according to those reports. And now we're getting it, but it's going to be an animated movie in the DCAU. Alongside the Long Halloween, which came out this year, Death in the Family. They're doing Metal Men in that same style. I think it's a good idea. I like the fact they're doing that, and I hope that they the DC animated stuff is really good. Some of the animation can look a little wonky. Death in the Family is great. It is a little long because they do it in 2 parts, and then on top of that, they do what's it called? The animation does get a little bit wonky at times, but it's perfectly serviceable. Apocalypse War was great. The Death of Superman arc they did basically the entirety of, Reign of the Superman, Death of Superman, and all of that. And it's all reasonably entertaining. So I think this is a great idea. I think this is a good format for it too. So now staying in the world of DC, let's talk about the Gotham HBO Max show. In the past, I've expressed my misgivings about Warner Brothers' kind of algorithm-esque take on expanding their theatrical world with HBO Max series in a way that I didn't really with Disney. And I think that the reason why I didn't with Disney is because we had seen these characters on screen before, and we had a chance for audiences to react and kind of influence and tailor how the show was going to end up as a result of what was happening. So when it was announced that they were doing WandaVision and Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, this was after, Civil War. This was after the Thor movies and Avengers, where it's like we understood who all these characters were. They were all introduced and, to an extent informed by audience reaction, where it's like, okay, we knew that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier was going to work because we had seen snippets of their relationship between these 2 characters in Civil War. We knew that was going to work. We knew that, WandaVision was going to work. We have the history of the comics where it's like the characters work, and we know the actors have chemistry on screen. So when it was announced, it was like, okay, that all makes sense. And then it's like Loki. People have been, thirsting over Loki since fucking Thor in 2010 or 2011, whenever the hell that came out. But, it's kind of a thing where we're just kind of acknowledging, and, we see that these things are happening, and we see that, what's happening. We see that audience will like this and will make that. It felt more like with Warner Brothers. I mean, I'm going to keep the Bene Gesserit separate. The Sisterhood, the Dune show that they were developing for HBO Max, because to an extent there is a long history of books to really look at and be like, okay, there's a lot to work with here, because if you look at like where the Bene Gesserit started and then how they evolve and go on across the centuries that the books take place over, especially as you get past God Emperor and into like Chapter House and all of that, you can kind of see like all of that, and looking at like the origins of them as someone who likes the books and did not particularly like, and it's like, there are books that are interesting, but just the style doesn't quite mesh with what I like. So like when I got through Dune, all the Dune books written by Frank Herbert, when I got to the ones written by his son, and it's like there was a little bit of a disconnect, and it didn't quite feel right. In the same way that like I didn't really care for Aftermath because I don't really like Chuck Wendig's style. So to an extent, it's kind of the same thing where I'm like, well, it doesn't quite mesh enough where I'm going to sit here and read this whole thing. So I kind of get it. I don't feel that, I feel like doing the Sisterhood in this way is a smart idea. But like Peacemaker being greenlit, Supergirl being greenlit, what was the other one that got greenlit? Oh, Gotham Central, which we're talking about here, getting greenlit before we saw a stitch of footage for any of these movies. It feels kind of like they're trying to pump it out to compete, and pumping it out to compete is what got DC in the problem they were in the first place, where they had to reboot the universe because they were trying to, pump out a Justice League movie to compete with the Avengers, and then when it wasn't competing the way they wanted, they started interfering with what Zack Snyder wanted to do, and we ended up with the trash we got. And I feel like it's kind of the same thing, where, we have this, and now we know that Colin Farrell will be reprising his role as the Penguin in what's it called, in this new movie, and it's like, okay, like, cool, I guess. Like, this show, I feel like if the show comes out if the show gets delayed, that's going to be telling to me. Like, I think that they kind of figured how people were going to react to John Cena as Peacemaker because they didn't really, do anything different. And plus, it seemed very creator-driven. And I'm not saying that this new one isn't also creator-driven, but if the Batman comes out and the Batman bombs, which I don't think it will. I think the Batman will do a solid 700, 800 million. If it doesn't break $1 billion. But let's say it doesn't do well and like the fan response isn't great to it, which I think there's a chance that could happen. I'm not going to say that there's no chance that could happen. There's a fair chance that the Batman could come out and not be well received by fans. I mean, because it's like we're continuing this trend of getting darker and darker Batman, and eventually we're going to get to a point where it's a black screen and someone groveling, and it's going to be, wow, what a great Batman movie. But there's a chance that as we double down and triple down and quadruple down on this thing, audiences are eventually going to not respond to it. So, like, doing this is going to be an interesting experiment to see if this is the case. And if Batman comes out and I'm totally wrong and it's like everyone loves the new Batman movie, and I think there's a chance even I'll like the new Batman movie, and it's like, just it doesn't have to be all dour and like depressing and all of that. I don't think that necessarily this is going to be a bad movie, but it's like, at least show us some footage before you greenlight a fucking series about it. Like, at least make it like, the difference is, like, Disney may have always been intending to make these things. Like, they may have always been intending to do these things. at Marvel Studios. Like, they may have always been intending to do Falcon as Captain America, to do the redemption of the Winter Soldier in the way that they have. They may have been intending to, from the beginning, do, like, this storyline with Wanda and breaking the multiverse and all of that. That this may have been the plan from the beginning, but by not announcing they were going to do it in this way before movies came out and we got to see it, like, it'd be like if they announced in 2015 before Age of Ultron, oh, by the way, we're going to make a TV show down the line where Wanda and the Vision are married, and it's a sitcom parody, and it's like, it would have not sat right, I don't think. And this is just another example of that. And it's like, I had the same misgiving when they announced Echo as a show before we saw anything of Hawkeye, because it felt like a spoiler to an extent, where it's like, well, okay, well, now we know Echo's got to become an anti-hero by the end of this. Which, I mean, we knew from the comics, but still, it's like, you know, we knew how this plotline was going to resolve. I have not watched an episode of Hawkeye, by the way, because I'm recording this on the day it came out and I haven't watched it yet. Let's see, what else do we have that's not Spider-adjacent in the news? Let's go back over to the Marvel side of things. Kevin Feige, this is a big story this week that kind of everyone shot the bed over. And I think that this really happened because of the broader implications, and also taking into consideration a conversation that was had with another star in a similar situation. It kind of puts things into a weird perspective that we have to really address. Now, Kevin Feige confirms that if and when, I think it's more of when more than if, when Daredevil returns to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and he makes his debut, the actor playing him will be Charlie Cox. Now, I think that it was one of the worst kept secrets since, like, 2019 that Daredevil will be in Spider-Man No Way Home. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, and Andrew Garfield's going to be there, but no one wants to acknowledge it. Where it's like, you know, we knew, it's like Spider-Man's accused of murder, Spider-Man needs a lawyer. Who's going to be a lawyer? Well, it's either going to be Jennifer Walters or it's going to be, you know, Daredevil. And I think you have to do less narrative, you know, groundwork to get to Matt Murdock than you do to get to Jennifer Walters in that, where it's like, you know, they're doing a She-Hulk show, and it's like, oh, are we going to bring in, like, at the time that they had announced the She-Hulk show, they'd already announced that No Way Home was happening, and it's like, you know, we have to cast a new She-Hulk, and we have to do that with conjunction with the producers of that show, and, you know, it's like, you know, they didn't announce Tatiana Maslany was coming back until Spider-Man was way into production, and it's kind of like we had to, we kind of knew we had to have, you know, Daredevil was going to be there, even if it was just Matt Murdock in a, you know, a suit and tie with his red glasses and his cane, being Matt Murdock and not being Daredevil. That was kind of an expectation. So, and the question was, do they bring back Charlie Cox or do they not? Because you can see both sides of the argument there, where it's like, if they bring back Charlie Cox, that's going to direct people to watch the Daredevil show, and Spider-Man is very much a all-ages kind of property. And if they're like, and here is a show where we're going to introduce the bad guy via him beheading someone with a car door, like, that I could understand if they were like, we'd like maybe not do that. But it seems like they're doubling down and they're doing that to begin with. And they're going to go case by case with the other part of it, with the other Defenders verse characters and bringing them into the main Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this was an interesting comment, especially in the face of a conversation that was had with a certain other Defenders cast member who was offered a role in a movie that came out this year. Jessica Henwick was offered a role in Shang-Chi earlier last year. But she had to decline it because she had already committed to being in The Matrix. And for whatever reason, I didn't discover that she's the girl with the blue hair in the Matrix trailer until I read this interview, and then I saw the trailer again, and I'm like, oh shit, that is her. Now, you may remember she played Colleen Wing in both Iron Fist and in, I think she also was in Luke Cage in one episode, when they did a Daughters of the Dragon thing, or maybe that was on Iron Fist. But she was also in the Defenders. And I think that she was the strongest character to come out of Iron Fist. And, like, when I look at the other cast members of the various shows that were on Netflix, like, I think everyone kind of, would be good to reprise. I mean, like, I don't think Kristen Ritter has a ton going on right now where she wouldn't reprise as Jessica Jones, and she has seemed open to it in interviews. Mike Coulter is criminally not getting work somehow. I don't know how the fuck that's happening. Like, he's a great actor, and he's just so effortlessly charming. Like, I don't know how the fuck he's not getting work. Unless he's signing on to play the Superman in the Val Zod movie that Michael B. Jordan is working on, I don't think it's likely that he doesn't reprise. Jessica Henwick has apparently already been approached to be in the movie, and I think that if she was going to be, she would have to be playing Colleen Wing, because mentally going through Shang-Chi, I don't think she would have worked as his sister, because I don't see her playing a villain. I don't think that, like her, the way, like, that actress, I don't see her playing a villain. I don't think she could, I'm not saying she couldn't pull it off. I'm saying her playing the sister wouldn't have fit with how the sister is played, unless they did an entirely different movie. I also don't think she could play Awkwafina's character, Katie, because that would have felt like a waste of someone who's a martial artist in the way that Jessica Henwick is. So I think that she would have had to have been playing Colleen Wing if she was there. I'm fine, and like, Simone Missick is great as Misty Knight, and I think that, she could, be a good one to come back. There's one person I think that shouldn't come back. I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to be mean, but I think you can probably figure it out. But like everyone else who's in the shows and lived through the shows, including, Punisher, with the one exception, which, I've made my thoughts clear on, in the past, I think that, like, there's just the one, that, like, I think that they could all reprise and all do well. And I think that if Disney Plus, I think the only way that this one mystery character comes back, and I'm like, good, is if they announce a Heroes for Hire show. And I think that we've made it clear. I don't think I can make it any more explicit, on how they do it. And if they recast him for that show, I'd be like, all right, even better. But yeah, this is a net good for everyone that we may be having Charlie Cox back in the MCU, playing Daredevil again. That Daredevil show is fantastic, on Netflix. If you haven't watched it yet, it was one of the earliest things we covered on a weekly basis on this, was that Daredevil show. Speaking of returning cast members, Kobe Smulders will be reprising as Maria Hill for Secret Invasion. I don't think that's necessarily a shock to anyone, because I think that it's kind of, again, foregone conclusion. Like, I don't think anyone should be surprised by the fact that Maria Hill's going to be in the Secret Invasion kind of, like, entirely S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, because that's an entirely S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show. Like, what else is there to do besides bring in as much S.H.I.E.L.D. as you possibly can? I like, when they announced this, I was like, wait, this wasn't already confirmed? Excuse me. Not Marvel related, but Tom Holland related. Tom Holland is going to be playing Fred Astaire in an upcoming biopic. I don't have anything more to say than that. Just don't cast Robert Downey Jr. as Ginger Roberts, and we're fine. What else do we have here? Doctor Strange. I'm going to play the spoiler warning for this, because it's a possible spoiler warning. Doctor Strange, we have a Lego set that came out, which seems to be confirming that Shuma Gorath is going to be in the movie. The tentacle beast that we saw Captain Carter fade off against in What If. I don't think there's anything to be special about that. And the next thing is also a spoiler warning. It is from Ant-Man and the Wasp, where the stunt crew had a really cool t-shirt that I wish they would sell, and I hope they sell in, in the aftermath of this. And there was another thing that broke today about Ant-Man and the Wasp that I'll include here too. Allegedly, early in production, I didn't hear this, but apparently early in production, Evangeline Lilly let it slip that Corey Stoll was going to be returning for this movie, but did not say how or why. And the movie's called Quantumania, and last we saw of him, he was getting shrunk in a really weird, bizarre way. And he was going to be shrinking down to be to go to the the quantum realm. Now we hear that he will be reprising in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania as MODOK. I'm all for it. Let me have it. I'm excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So give me this movie. I will watch this movie and just let's just go. Let's do that. Now the other thing is we knew Kang was going to be in this movie, Kang the Conqueror. Jonathan Majors going to be reprising. And I still think it was a mistake for them to announce that Jonathan Majors was playing Kang the Conqueror, because I think that had Loki come out and we didn't know that, and then it'd be for months it'd be like, who is? There's a nice little Easter egg in that episode where he's like, he's the one beyond all, or whatever the fuck. He Who Remains was the name. Where it's like he's like, I've gone by many names, a scientist, a warlord, a conqueror, and it's like, oh, okay. And then, people would figure out, oh, he's playing Kang. Like, holy shit, he's playing Kang the Conqueror. And it's like, then when it's like, oh, and now he's in Ant-Man and the Wasp, it's like, yes, here we go. Now it's like, they announced it too early, I think. But the big reveal from the shirt is, now the picture on the shirt is Ant-Man's helmet with the side of the helmet shattered and like destroyed, and the reflection in the helmet being Kang. You see Kang the Conqueror in his comics accurate outfit. Now I know Peyton Reed got a lot of shit for the first Ant-Man movie because like, oh, he's not Edgar Wright, but at the same time, the cool thing that with this, from what we've seen of what concept art he's had, he seems to want to do some of the more wild things. And it's like, he wanted Eamon the Beekeeper suits in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and they didn't do that. But now they're bringing in MODOK, they're doing Aim the way he wants, and then they're also doing, what's it called? They're also doing Kang with a comics accurate costume. And I think the Ant-Man movies are very enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to seeing when this goes. I want to see how this kind of wraps up. So now we have one more story before we dive into the spider-ness of it all with the fucking disaster that is, impending. That is Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't want to say disaster impending. That's not nice, and the movie's probably gonna be really good. But Daniel Cretton has signed a new overall development deal. He previously did Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. As part of this overall development deal, this has been, I should have specified, with Disney. He has Shang-Chi 2 has been formally announced and to be in development. And then on top of that, there is also he's doing a new Disney Plus series that is going to be a comedy, but more specifically than that, we don't know what it is. So let's look and see where that's going to go. And what the fuck is this guy doing? Sorry. So that's, impending. And it's kind of like the Wakanda Forever, or the Wakanda Forever, and then the Wakanda show that they're doing with the production company that what's his name owns. It's kind of like that. Ryan Coogler. It's kind of like that, where his overall development deal has been inked, and we're going to see where this goes. And now, we've been patient. Here's all of the spider news. So let's start out with Venom 3, which we knew was coming based on the post-credit tag from Venom 2 and the statements of the director of Venom 2, Andy Serkis, like, we are doing Venom 3, and I will be directing Venom 3. Amy Pascal did confirm that Venom 3 is in fact happening. And it's like, the great was a statement where, what's it called, where they were talking about, where Feige was like, yeah, we saw how much money Venom made, and we're like, can we do that too? And it's kind of like they didn't want to say, like, Venom was shit. It's like, we saw it made a lot of money, and people really liked Tom Hardy, so, we're for that. Like, yeah, it's like, they don't have an active hand in it, but they're making Venom 3, which should surprise no one, because Venom 2 did gangbusters at the box office, considering there's a fucking pandemic, so, whatever. Venom 3 is happening whether we want it or not. Now, the next thing is No Way Home. It is tracking for $200 million at the opening weekend box office. That is insane. Pandemic, no pandemic, that is an insane amount of money. And I think that, looking at broadly what's going on with the pandemic and theatrical movies, I think that it's safe to say that we can't really consider it the pandemic era anymore. We just are going to consider it back to whatever we consider normal. Now, the interesting thing is going to be seeing the drop-off. I don't think this movie is going to have the staying power of of the other past entries. I don't think it's going. Number one, the next week is The Matrix 4, which is going to definitely bite into it. And I don't like it in the same way that they put Jumanji out after Star Wars, and Jumanji didn't take as big a bite out as I don't know if people thought it would, but it didn't take that big of a bite out. I don't think that this movie is going to. I think that The Matrix is going to have a bigger impact than people are anticipating. Even if The Matrix is shit, I think that, especially considering that weekend is then Christmas. So it's going to be a fun, interesting way to look at that. And the other thing is, I don't think people are going to go for a repeat viewing, which is what really, if anything, drives the box office over $1 billion. It's seeing a movie multiple times. And I think that that's going to be one of the things that goes away as a result of the pandemic. It's like, we saw it once in theaters. I don't need to see it again. It'll come out on home media, and when it comes out on home media, I'll watch it then. So I think that's going to be the big change, if there is any, and I think that that's going to be the thing that holds it back from reaching, the heights that it would have done pre-pandemic. But the opening weekend is going to stay where it is, and I think if later weekends stay high, it's not going to be repeat viewers. It's going to be people who were unable to see it the first weekend. Then the next big thing is going to be that the press screenings are only going to be 40 minutes long and not include major spoilers. I understand why this is happening. There have been some gripes about this, and people are taking it as like, oh, they're afraid to show the whole movie because they think people aren't going to like it. Like, Sony showed the whole movie for Venom. They are not gun-shy about showing the entire movie. I think what Marvel is gun-shy about is the fact that they had a press screening for the Eternals, and I'm not even going to pretend to act like I don't know which company it was that did it. It was fucking E! Ran an article the next day, like, Harry Styles makes his MCU debut as Thanos' brother, and it's like, you spoiled the fucking post-credit scene. You spoiled the, like, I understand why they're like, we're not going to show you the fucking spoilers. You guys can't handle it. I understand it completely. It completely makes sense. And like I usually do with movies like this that are going to be, like, spoiler heavy, in terms of, like, big reveals that you don't want spoiled, like, I'm going to do two versions of the review. I'm going to do the spoiler-free and the spoiler-full version of the No Way Home review. Like I've done for Endgame, like I did for, other movies in the past. And it just kind of, it makes sense, because like if someone doesn't want to know what happens, but wants to know broadly how good the movie is, then it kind of works. So yeah, I understand completely why they're doing this, and it's like, you brought this on yourself. You completely brought this on yourself. Don't get pissy about it. You brought this on yourself. And then the final Spider-Man story, I've been most excited for, is the announcement of more information regarding Into the Spider-Verse 2. If you recall, Into the Spider-Verse was my favorite movie of 2019 when it came out. And I can rewatch that movie over and over again. It's such a great movie. Between that and The Incredibles, my favorite animated superhero movie, it's probably those two are probably my favorite superhero movies, The Incredibles and Into the Spider-Verse. But, they ended with that scene with Spider-Man 2099, voiced by Oscar Isaac, and now we get our first look at the new movie, which is going to be called Across the Spider-Verse. Now, we also know that the movie is not going to be one movie, it's going to be two movies. The first movie is part 1, comes out in 2022. October 7th, I believe, of 2022. And then part 2 will be coming a year later in 2023. Now, on top of this, we got our first look at Across the Spider-Verse, and we're going to see, we see Miles kind of, talking to Gwen, who has come back. As we saw at the end of the first movie, Gwen kind of comes back through the portal, and then they're hanging out, and then she leaves, and it felt like a warm blanket to be back in that world. And then we get to go in. We see Miles go into the Spider-Verse, and something that's worth noting that maybe I'll rewatch the movie and see if I catch it there. They changed the imagery of the multiverse, and the imagery of the multiverse lines up with the way it's portrayed in Loki and in Spider-Man No Way Home. Like the way the colors are portrayed across all of that, and even in what was that other show? What If? It looks very much like that. I think there's a strong chance we get a Watcher cameo in this movie, and I'm looking forward to seeing this movie very much. This is it is a great little sizzle reel, and once he goes to the 2099 universe and he sees, the way the art style changes, it is so cool. I do have one gripe about that though. In the first movie, the characters who came from other universes stayed in their art style. I don't like that Miles' art style changed when he went to the 2099 universe. But that's a small complaint. So we will wrap up there for today. If you have not watched it yet, you can go to Sony's YouTube channel and you can watch the trailer for Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. I am very much looking forward to this movie. It's probably my most... Oh no, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is next year. That too. There are a lot of movies I'm very much anticipating next year. So we'll wrap up there for today. If you have not gotten your free copy of Swan Song, you can get it for free. Go to bit.ly/AT-Swansong. You can get a free copy of the Kindle edition of the book through this Friday, the 10th. Next week it will be Duet, and I'll have a new link for that next week. And it'll be in the description too if you missed it. And then I'll have the what's it called? It'll be in every Beware Spoilers episode for the next week or so. And it'll like for the rest of this week it'll be Swan Song. Then after that it'll be Duet, and then after that it'll be The Muses, and then after that it'll be, I think it's Our Past Does Not Define Us. Will be the book we're doing after that. Not In the End, even though In the End is going to play into Echo Delta when that happens. So again, bit.ly/AT-Swansong, and then you can get your free copy. It is completely free. There are no strings attached. You can just go on, hit add to your library, and then we're trying to get up above into the top. Ideally, we can get to number 1. That's what we want. If we can get into the top 10, that'd be great. And it's completely free. You have to do absolutely nothing. You just go to bit.ly/AT-Swansong, and you get a completely free copy of the book. All you have to do. So until next week, have a great rest of your week. Do you like the show? Do you hate the show? Are you indifferent to the show? No matter what, you should probably let us know what we're doing so we can change it to better suit you, the listener's needs. You can go to either bit.ly/BOScontact, which is a contact form page you can use. Also, you can just email us directly at 30minutereviews@gmail.com. If you have questions that you would like us to answer, we can answer them on the air. We have a few questions every week that will be selected to be answered on air. So if you want to tell us what we should do, or if you have a suggestion for a movie or a TV show or something we should cover, go to bit.ly/BOScontact, and also email us 30minutereviews@gmail.com.